honey viewers, I am DS, your psychologist, and welcome to another episode on Channel NITT. After having sat on this topic for a very long time, we have finally decided to do a topic on ENTJ as parents. So one of the reasons why I am so hesitant doing the ENTJ as a parent is because I am actually a child psychologist, so I might really be very different from the other ENTJ parents around. I would also consider myself to be higher in spirituality than the rest of the population, so this might also change the way I view children.
Children of the sky.
So in order for me to do this episode, I did my due diligence and I checked the internet for some characteristics of the ENTJ parents. I was expecting adjectives such as demanding and strict, but I did not see such adjectives. Conversely, a lot of the adjectives that I see does align with me if I were a parent.
To get away from your parents and not for a while.
So let us look at the ENTJ as a parent. First, the ENTJ as a parent is very likely to raise his or her children as reflections of themselves. So the ENTJ wants the children to be a reflection of their own personal standards. So what are our own personal standards? First, we would like our children to be smart. We would also like our children to be independent and motivated to strive towards their own goals. Personally, I would also like my children to be efficient. So these are all ENTJ values. Because of this, the ENTJ would definitely have a very hard time with a child that is a P-type. Not that P-type children are likely not to be smart, it's just that the functions that the P-type children use really clash with that of the ENTJ. Therefore, they cannot align in terms of standards. When I think about myself as a parent, unfortunately, I think that I am going to be a very inconsistent parent. At times, I can envision myself to be very indulgent. At other times, I can envision myself to be rather strict. So this really sends mixed signals to the children, and that is no good. Because we use TE logic and NI intuition at the same time, we are very unlikely to be very predictable. If you have a partner and you know me well enough, you know how to live with me. However, children may not have this type of intelligence and awareness. So personally, I think that ENTJs are not going to be very good parents unless they have very intelligent children who are self-sufficient and independent. The independent child would have been an ideal child for the ENTJ. We go and work, you stay at home and you monitor yourself and do your homework. Wonderful. Actually, to think about it, I grew up that way. My parents did not have to give me a lot of attention. I was able to motivate myself. So maybe in another episode, I'm going to talk about whether the ENTJ child is the ideal child for the ENTJ parent. Why would the ENTJ parent be inconsistent? First of all, the ENTJ is a very unconventional individual, and the ENTJ does not like to stick to rules. So while many Asian parents are very concerned about results, they are also concerned about the progression of their child, whether they are going to go to a good university, that kind of thing. The ENTJ is not that concerned. Personally, if my child wants to be a doctor, a lawyer, or an accountant, an engineer, all the conventional, boring type of occupations, yes, they can go ahead because this is what they want.
If I could be anything, I would be a doctor.
So we do not impose our ideals on the child in this regard because personally, I do not feel attracted to this kind of occupations. But if you are, as a child, interested, then you go ahead. We will support you financially. So what if the child wants to pursue something more artsy, like acting? So I would say, yes, go ahead. However, I would caution this child first by giving information so that he can decide for himself. After all, we only gave this child life. It is now his or her own life, and he or she must decide for themselves what they really want. I think one of the things that I'm very interested in doing for the children is that I want to help this child to learn how to self-actualize and live out of societal norms. Because as an ENTJ myself, I know how contriving societal norms are. So I would want my children to not be constrained by them. But of course, this is a really very hard thing to do as a parent. Why? Because a lot of other parents don't think that way. You may want not to give your child a phone, but every other parent does that. So unless you have a child who is very understanding and disciplined, they might really nag at you.
I feel I should get a cell phone because what if I'm lost?
If an ENTJ has 2 or more children, it is very likely that ENTJ will be very fair to both of them because ENTJ values fairness. Personally, I would like my child to be smart, but I am not going to place a lot of emphasis on education, which means to say, if possible, I would think that my child does not need to have tuition. Of course, this is a very ideal case, right? So I hope you can see how different the ENTJ parent might be as a parent. So on the one hand, the child may actually receive a lot of input from the parent saying that, okay, you should be who you are, you should really do what you can. Sometimes as children, it is very likely to abuse the parents because the parents want the children to self-actualize and be who they really want to be. But at the same time, the child can actually twist your words around and say, I just want to be playful, I just want to be mischievous, why can't I? So you are actually indulgent and strict at the same time, which is very confusing for the child, especially when the child is young. But if you really want me to raise the child the conventional way, staying with this child, going through flashcards, that kind of thing, wow, it's a torture.
Woman, Cyclops, Ant-Man, Wasp, Quicksilver, Scarlet Witch, Thor, Superman.
So I've been a child psychologist for a decade. I've helped a lot of parents in trying to groom their children. Personally, do I think that I will be a good parent? I don't think so. So I am very inclined to think that people are all born with a particular MBTI type. They are all pre-programmed and their brain is wired in a particular way right from the start. So there is a 45% chance that I'm going to get a P child. and I think that this is too high. Cannot risk it. So it is very unlikely that I would want to have children. Also, emotionally as an ENTJ parent, I am unable to really love a child unconditionally. So as an ENTJ parent, I can be very strict with you when you are not performing up to my standards. However, my love for you can be expressed in the form whereby I go and play with you at the playground. But unfortunately, I do not know how to express my love for you in other ways. The 3 ideals of being smart, motivated and independent are really very hard to achieve. I have seen numerous children before. They are all unable to satisfy at least 2 of this kind of criterion. So as an ENTJ, it could be really frustrating, and an ENTJ parent can really be very irritable when they meet children that cannot meet up to their standards. So it is better not to have children. So therefore, as an ENTJ, I think it is okay not to have any children because we will not be able to handle it well. Okay, are there ENTJs who are parents over here? Perhaps you can also share with us your parenting experiences. We hope that you have enjoyed this episode. If you have not subscribed, do consider subscribing so that we can bring you more ENTJ, MBTI and fun stuff. Okay, I'm going to sign off now and I'll see you in our next episode. Goodbye!